Chamberlain. So,
good morning and welcome to the program. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Good morning. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf from Abuja.
just before we focus on this opening sequence, we would like to just let you know, if you live in Lagos, you have to be careful if you drive around. So that's because it appears as though the VIO, the last mile, and all those traffic agencies are on the revenue drive. Yeah, we're getting lots of complaints and messages from almost every part. They're arresting people and different things. Things that you never heard before. And then for the same offense, if there is 70,000 naira, they tell some pay 50,000 naira. You don't even know if those sources, if the revenue or whatever they bill people for is going into government coffers. So they need to just let people, what is going on? It's going on. Someone told me they stopped her for about 3 separate times for the same offense after she corrected it. So we don't know what's going on.
And that's beside the fact that sometimes you get arrested for something and then they take you to the office only to tell you right there and then that you actually committed an offense last year and it's in the books. It's in your profile, and if you do not pay that one, you don't even move forward. Anyway, that's just beside the point.
Well, speaking about which, planning, there's been a lot of questions as to what we do about planning. Now, the MPC is raising some concern, and sometimes when they talk about population explosion, the importance, the need for us to address that, in fact, take it as as equally serious as whatever challenge that we face in this country. Many dismiss that with a wave of hand, and you wonder why that happens. But the MPC is saying, look, which is something that several people have spoken about, because when you look at the rate at which our population grows compared to the growth of, you see the GDP of the economy, you wonder, look, the population seems to be rising so fast, and for some, they just don't take it as serious when you broach that topic, because if nothing is done about the population or how those things happen, if you don't checkmate that, just try to...
You're looking for the right words.
Because it could be tricky.
Is it population explosion, population control, population management? Which one is it? I guess that's the work for the National Population Commission to deal with.
Because it appears as though nobody wants to talk about that.
But it's not just an elephant in the room. It's like the whole room itself. If we don't deal with it,
religion prohibits them from doing certain things, and some think the fear of religion. No,
does the religion?
We're not slave to religion.
Does the religion or culture forbid planning?
No way.
I don't think so. I don't see
they should
anywhere
stop deceiving
where
people out
any
there.
deity says don't plan. You know, the issue you raised about the MPC, National Population Commission, by the way, was at an event where they were talking about what they call the 3 zeros.
Right.
We talk about zero maternal mortality, zero unmet need for family planning, and all of that, which is just. The target is 2030, and 2030 is just how many years, to come, about 8 years or thereabout. Now, he was saying that, drawing attention of all stakeholders to the seeming omission of specific funding for family planning in the proposed 2022 budget and the threat of population explosion in Nigeria. Now,
but before you move ahead, pardon me to just jump in. Many will wonder, okay, if we didn't give anything this time, what we've given before, what has happened? Has there been any serious impact?
It's actually a good idea to probe what we've done over the years, because I remember in the 80s into the 90s, there was a massive campaign around population control, family planning issues and all of that, and there were civil society organizations, NGOs that faced that was their primary, talking about family planning, sexual education, things that people need to know in order to give birth to children.
That's how people remember groups like SFH.
Exactly, Society for Family Health and all of that. So all those things, those things happened back then. Are they still as prominent today as they were then? I think that's one of the issues that's one of the issues that is being raised here. But then don't forget that population control is population management is not only a challenge for Nigeria, it's a global concern as well. Remember what former President Obasanjo said, that by 2030 or thereabout will be X in population in Nigeria. What are we going to do with that? Is it going to be an asset or a liability? Things that we really need to begin to
do we have to have a national policy on that kind of thing?
Well, I guess that should be a
for
job
families.
for the
How many
NPC.
children should the family have, and things like that?
I don't know what the resolution or communicate, what the outcomes of that meeting where the chairman, the head of the NPC spoke. I don't know what the resolution was, but perhaps that's something that we should also consider, especially in this part of the world.
Okay.
Well, we do know that even though there's no clearly spelled out policy in terms of how many children a family can have, we do know that the Nigerian state seems to favor the number 4 because it would seem that that's about the most allowance they will give in terms of when a tax is being considered. I think you're only considered for about 4 kids at the maximum. If you have if you have more than 4, then, you'll have to, no allowance will be made for that whenever it is they're, tabulating tax for you. I think that for me, this is very worrisome because it affects one demographic of the population more than another. Women will be the one who will bear the brunt of this. You talked about Society for Family Health and a number of other NGOs that used to push for this. Perhaps they had taken the backseat because it had caught on in many places, the importance of family planning, the need for families to be able to not just plan their families, but how this also affects our general population. So for us to not make any allowance for it, 0 allocation is what we're hearing, could be in the budget for it. Begins to make one wonder, so what will happen to the people who will need these services and will not be able to access it because it will not be available? Are we thinking about the implications of it? While it is okay for us to try and probe what has happened in the past and the effect, now, however meager the sum might have been in the past, it certainly would have done something. It's like saying that the child has poor education. Some people will argue that poor education is better than no education at all. At least if you don't have chairs and desks and the teacher is still coming to class to make do whatever it is that he or she has, within his or her disposal, it could be better than none at all. So while we probe to see what effect, if that is what the trajectory we want to go through, what effect it has had over the years. Is it also possible for us to consider, because the alarm raised here by the NPC is well in order. We're still talking about how, people are not accessing it. They're not accessing family planning methods, and we're still trying to persuade people to go in some parts of the country to access family planning. What about when we eventually get them to change their minds and they now go to these places where they're supposed to get access to it and it's not available? What then happens? So it does have grave implications. I do hope that, if the authorities that are concerned, if there was an omission, that they should take a second look at it. The Ministry of Health has a pretty sizable allocation to it in the 2022 budget. Yes, we'll wonder how much of that will be cashed back. But I think they need to take a second look and see where they can make an allowance for that particular important bit of ensuring that women and families, because this is not just a women business, it is supposed to be the family that is planning, but oftentimes when a family fails to plan, women tend to bear the brunt. But at least, if when the women go, if and when they go, at least there should be access. Family planning methods should be available to them. Gentlemen.
Yes, indeed. It's very serious because there was this report by UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. That report said that Nigeria was going to be the 3rd most populous country in the world by 2050. The 3rd in the world. And we're going to overtake countries like the US. Yeah. So you can imagine with all the infrastructure, amenities, strategies, we will overtake them. We're currently 7th. But they say if we don't do something, this is what it's going to come to. So we could deal with that. Let's delve right into some of the dailies and start with Vanguard today. Household food security under threat in Nigeria. ascribed to the World Bank. So if that population is growing with reckless abandon, and then food security is currently under threat, while we're 7th most populous country in the world, you can imagine what happens if we now become the 3rd. So it's not just about the numbers, as people say, we have the numbers, we have the economy, we have market. No.
I think what it depends on is how are we going to be using it as an asset or as a liability. I think that's what is crucial here.
Well, to give you an idea of how we may be in the operative world, because we're optimistic, cautiously optimistic, because look at what we've done in the last 10 years, the last 20 years. So you know what we can do by what we've done before, if there's anything to go by. That gives you an inkling, because we've been doing the same things in this country and expect different results. Can that happen? I don't know. But the writers here says, suggest policy options. Says high food prices could push 6 million more Nigerians into poverty. Report contradicts NBS inflation data. Impact of COVID-19, insecurity, floods, severe. 6 million more Nigerians going into poverty. It's a wake-up call, says World Bank country director. Need we say more? So that is the big one right there. Okay, well, yeah, on a lighter note, well, Mr. and Mrs. also features again today. Well, Mrs. first of all, telling Mr. who, just looking away, almost thinking twice, says, Mrs. tells Mr., you made 10 million naira from the business and you said it's good and bad news. What's the bad news? And Mr. says, I told you about it. Oh, no.
Where it's coming for you.
That's a sucker punch right there. Don't forget to check out what's on the back page of Vanguard Sports. We hope it makes Nigeria smart at the end of the day, because right now, all pro over Eagles. Bottom line.
Nigerian Tribune is also interested in that same lead as the Vanguard newspaper this morning. World Bank, food inflation could push 6 million more Nigerians into poverty. And that's only saying, it's like you have a family of 7, which with the capacity to prepare for 4. A family of 7, you only have a capacity to prepare or provide for 4. What's going to happen to the other 3? If you're going to balance out, you're going to reduce the ration for everyone else. And that, I think, is what this is speaking
But
to.
the thing is, we don't even talk about these things. Do you hear them in schools? Who talks? Where do you get this kind of conversation on a regular basis so people can know?
Don't also forget, this is perhaps why people talk about the role of traditional rulers who are, custodians of culture.
Religious
leaders
as well.
Also have huge influence on people. So maybe
they always seem to want to hoodwink us in this country about religion. I keep forgetting that you have other countries who are equally strong on religion, is it Christians or Muslims, and look at their own development or economic indices. Just look at that.
I think we always miss one fact, the fact that religion is supposed to be a catalyst for development, not for enslavement. We forget that many times. That's the lead of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And there are so many other. Okay, there's this one. There was nothing like Jezani Diamond Bra, EFCC chairman, says 200 billion naira lost to investment scam. That's the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Wow.
Well, let's take a look at The Guardian for you. Uncertainties as tenure of NERC commissioners end. Government moves to renew embed license amid 1.66 trillion naira debt. Why revocation of DISCO's, GENCO's licenses may be daunting. So you recall the conversation we had yesterday about EFCFTA and how Nigeria needs to be competitive within that, and how power is a very big component, energy is a very big component of that. Now, these are some of the, hurdles that we need to cross sometimes. Now, there's conversation around what should happen to GENCOs and DISCOs. And you see this, why revocation of DISCO's, GENCO's licenses may be daunting, because that conversation is still ongoing. APC crisis festers as police cordon of secretariat again. That's a bit of politics there. 11 killed, others missing as Cameroonians attack Taraba. Now that's external aggression. And perhaps this is as he clocks 70. NAS can't provide constitution to take us to the promised land. That's from Olanikpekun, Wole Olanikpekun, this new advocate of Nigeria. Let's leave it there for the Guardian newspapers.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder, this NERC, what impact have they even had on consumers? Because if you run a poll now and ask consumers, okay, well, have you ever had cause to interact with NERC? Were you satisfied with the performance or response from NERC? They're supposed to be the ones regulating the discourse, but the discourse seem to be...
I think you forget
they're
how...
regional monopolies.
I think you forget how complex the power sector is. And we may also be forgetting how important, how critical it is to national development.
But when you have those agencies, can they do the job they were put in there for in the first instance? Can they be seen to be doing something or even do something? They get allocation, don't they? Look at the discourse. It takes you sometimes weeks to get a response to fix something from these discourse. Oh boy. It's the same thing Nigerians feel. Just ask them. Oh, New Telegraph is the next one here today. It can be frustrating, I tell you.
I was wondering.
Well, many core members are drug addicts.
You're just saying that.
NYSC, whoa. Say, female copper brought over 100 diazepam tablets to camp. We had one suffering from withdrawal syndrome. Some scream at night. Well, it'll be good to put this in context, really, because you have quite a number of your core members. So when you say many, what is the percentage of the entire core members to qualify this many?
Don't forget that these are university graduates.
Yep.
And don't also forget that there's been a lot of talk about the rate of drug use or drug abuse in universities. So this shouldn't be so too surprising.
Well, I don't envy those who are fighting, or the country as a whole, trying to deal with this scenario, because what policies are there in the first place for young folks, for you?
What scares me about this, Chamberlain, my apologies for butting in. What scares me about this is that this is another generation of leaders that Nigeria will have. So if we are not doing anything to protect them before they get to the level of NYSC, what else? What caliber of leaders are we raising?
Yeah, they keep telling us, oh, Nigerian education is poor, quality standards has dropped. These same people who are talking about it, who are offices today, they were the one, they benefited from the system when it was very strong.
Wait.
So what have they done to make it stronger than when they left it? They had scholarships, a lot of them.
I'm at a loss right now, Chamberlain. Because I remember the president saying in a statement, put out yesterday, earlier in the week or maybe late last week, Nigeria's education is very good, and some people, as they leave, many Nigerians are doing so well abroad because they got the foundation from the education in Nigeria.
That's the life of politicians for you, if you want to believe them for so many things. Yeah, so you see, avert fresh strike. Honor pact with ASU. Sultan tells Buhari. Cooperate with FG to stamp out corruption in varsities. President tells UI management. So, I guess we'll wait and see how they handle these kind of matter, the kind of attention to give to it. Because remember the other day, it sounded like a joke, but what is the qualification of those who are vying for political offices? For those who are wondering, how come they don't pay attention? How come it comes across as though they don't just pay that much attention to education in this country?
How is that?
School, sir, just attempt. I don't think it says you have to pass. Just attempt school cert. It means you can come from a night, just enter there and attempt. Yeah. Then you're qualified to run for the biggest position at whatever level.
So if anything is going to be done to that, who is supposed to make the adjustments? Is that the job of the National Assembly? That's why some people say that the worst of us are governing or leading the best of us. So if we want the best of us to get to positions of authority and rule the best of us, then let's get the best of us to get the best education.
So whether we like it or not, people have got to ask them questions. It's not about, they have to ask because it's your money, the taxpayer, you still have to pay a lot more tax. And then what services do you get for some of these things on a regular basis?
Quite a lot of work, yeah.
Yeah, so you see, that's New Telegraph today.
Leadership newspaper is interested in this one. Conflicting court orders 64 days after. Probe panels yet to sit over erring judges. I don't know what this means, but seeing this just brings to mind, wait a minute, what's the latest? How far has the police or the NBA or those investigative panels, those working, gone about justice, the invasion of Justice Odile's home? How far with that one? What's the latest on that one? It will be good to know. But to the riders here, accused judges yet to make appearances. The panels can't begin hearing if the judges' lawyers aren't fully briefed. Uh-oh. Senior lawyers ask CJN, NJC to expedite action. Stories on page 4. And right under that one, under the pictures, U.S. removes Nigeria from religious violators list. Find that story on the inside pages, page 7 to be specific. That's the leadership newspaper today.
Well, let's take a look at Daily Trust for you, and they have this one, very disturbing story. 57 killed in Sokoto in 2 days. Tambuwal visits communities, assures support. 1 killed, 30 kidnapped in fresh attack in Niger. Cameroonian rebels kill monarch, others in Taraba. It's a page 5 read for you. A lot of the headline focusing on stories that have resulted in deaths, well, stories of violence that have now resulted in death, some as a result of external aggression. Page 5 will give you all of the details. U.S. removes Nigeria from religious violators list. And this is also there. 4 killed, others trapped in fresh Lagos building collapse. It's a page 4 read for you. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust newspapers.
Even though churches and mosques are still being attacked by these terrorist groups, almost with reckless abandon. But take a look at Daily Independent next. You see a similar matter which has been highlighted previously on the front page there. Households' food security under threat in Nigeria, ascribed to the World Bank. North's rulership, a disaster for Nigeria, says Bokno Akerele. So you equally see the writer. Asks government to compensate families of victims killed at Lekki toll gate. So that conversation keeps going on today. That's Daily Independent this morning.
Nigerian News Direct is worried about this one on its front page. Cameroonian separatists' invasion, Nigeria's sovereignty under threat. Ascribed to Senate, stories on page 3. Traditional ruler, residents killed. Not good news, so how far so far? Sure, we'll be delving into this one. Just stay with us here on this program, Sunrise Daily.
Well, many times you see Kaduna teachers to refine. We won't write another competency test. Yeah, that's what the front page of Daily Times is talking about today. So it appears as though they see another one coming through on the front page of Daily Times here today. So who knows how that will eventually play itself out.
Interestingly, there are 2 riders on his front page.
So the first of the rider says, alleged motive behind the test is to downsize workforce same way as was done 3 years ago. Say only TRCN has legal backing to conduct such exercise. There you go. There you go. And then just above that lead story, FGE to allocate $200 million for creation of 780 agri-service centers. Shimbajo.
Shouldn't we just come up with a policy? Okay, Nigeria, we want to face agriculture, and because it'll help us focus everything that we know. I mean, on this. I don't know, but it's a good initiative, I would say. I would think. We've made a lot of name and credence, money, and all of that from agriculture over the years. Why don't we just make a policy out of it and say, okay, let's channel everything into it, our health, our education, our politics, our population, our everything, in that direction. Okay, in school, this is what Nigeria is known for, agriculture. And then, I don't know, maybe I'm too idealistic, I don't know.
Ideas rule the world, man. Well, that is it when you look at some of the dailies here today. We will be back in a moment. Don't go away. Well, yes, indeed. It's 12 days to the release of the white paper, as the Lagos State government said, having spoken about the committee that was set up to review the report of that panel. They expected to come up with a white paper. At the time, they said they had 2 weeks, and so 12 days to that time now. And expectedly, all eyes will be on the state to see how will they proceed moving forward. Well, to discuss some of those issues and more, we've got Mr. Femi Falana, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Good morning, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Well, this report, there's several things about it now. First is the one that is in circulation. How do we refer to it? Do we refer to it as the report of that judicial panel of which the white paper is going to be released?
Well, as you're asking you guys in the media, how did you get a copy of the report, and circulated it? I mean, how did you get the report and already it's in circulation?
We saw the same one in circulation as everybody else.
No, but I think what is important, a member of the panel spoke yesterday that while the substance is okay, what is in circulation was clearly not the report submitted to the government. In other words, there were some errors according to him. So it could just have been one of the drafts submitted to the government. But what is important is that the findings have not been challenged, the recommendations have not been challenged, the review of evidence has not been challenged.
But should the government have released the report before asking that committee or while asking that committee to review the report?
No, the government couldn't have released the report. I think it's the...
Should they have?
No, the government hasn't released the report. No.
But the question should the government have released?
Yeah.
No. What happens in a situation like this is that, pursuant to the Tribunal of Inquiry law of Lagos State, a panel was set up, a judicial commission of inquiry. It has concluded its assignment and has submitted a report to the government, including the recommendations. The government will have to study the report and the recommendations and issue a white paper which will contain the directives of the government, the decision of the government in respect of each of the findings. So the government could not have released the report, and the government should not have released the report because it has to. I mean, a committee has been set up now, and that committee should have been allowed to carry out its assignment. It is after that committee has concluded its own assignment that the government would then release the report and its own position via a white paper.
But many were of the impression when you released your statement, alongside several other statements that several other people released, they were of the impression that you predicated that statement on the report that was in circulation.
For sure.
Which is now not, which they say is now not the main report that they're.
Well, I mean, you can understand what is being said. I.e., we didn't leak this report, and we have submitted our report to the government for its consideration. But nobody has come out to say that what is in circulation is forged or that it doesn't represent our recommendations. I think what the young gentleman was saying was that there are certain errors. But he also concluded by saying that, that is our report.
Okay.
No matter what is in circulation reflects our report.
The fear that some people have expressed, prior to now, even prior to the release of the submission of the report and then the subsequent, leakage of the report now, is that, government may not want to tell us the real issues that arose from the event. And of course, so many people, yourself, the UN, the US, CNN, everyone has been reacting to that same thing. Do you see a situation where government may have, or the authorities may have, watered down?
No. Frankly speaking, I think whoever released the report, or those who released the report, wanted to ensure, right, that there's no cover-up. That's the whole essence. Because in the past, we have had situations in this country where panels of inquiry sat and the report never saw the light of day. Oh, yes. I remember the Akambi judicial panel of inquiry that investigated killings of students in 1986. Because the federal government could not believe the findings. So simply refused to release the report. But I think the news magazine published the report. There was also an incident under the Abacha junta. Judges were investigated. Many were recommended for dismissal or retirement on grounds of misconduct or corruption. The government did not release the report due to influence by certain forces. Again, I think the news magazine got the report under the Obasanjo regime in the year 2000 and released the report. Then there was, some people felt, oh, this organization should be dealt with under the law, under the, I don't know which law they were quoting there. And so the magazine came to us as their lawyers. And we said, no, you have no cause once you are sure that is the report. I said, yes, we're sure. Nothing will happen to you. And that was it. Based on that leakage, the Obasanjo administration then sent the report to the NJC, for implementation. So you have situations like this, where reports are leaked in order to pressurize the government.
But the challenge,
to act on the recommendations.
The challenge here, is why do those cover-ups happen? There are those who feel that such cover-ups are activities at denying justice.
For sure.
And as a result of that, it only makes, it only reduces the trust quotient of government, or of the people in government.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you go back again to Oputa Panel's report, a wonderful exercise all over the country. The government never released the report.
Well, there are
but
those,
it's in circulation.
But there are those who say
people have written books on it.
That Oputa panel was because it was the federal government that convened. It was supposed to be the states that would convene the panel.
No. There was a case on it, which some generals, including the current president, General Babangida and I think Abdusalami Abubakar, they didn't want to go to the panel.
Yeah, but that was the
So
reason.
they went to the court. And what the court said was that the federal government, the president, can only set up a commission for inquiry in Abuja. It is the power of the state governors to set up panels of inquiry in the state, which we invoke this time around when some people question the powers of the state government to set up a commission for inquiry. But the Oputa panel was set up in Abuja, not in Lagos or so-called state. And so, the bulk of the evidence was taken in Abuja. But the government simply didn't want to act on the recommendations.
Why? It set up the committee.
No, but cover-up, some generals were indicted. The panel recommended that some cases be reopened. For instance, the case of the killings of the late, M.K. Abiola, the wife, and many others. Government should carry out investigation. Government should change, certain things in the way and manner the country is governed. Of course, the government was not very comfortable. So, government simply,
Okay, now
put the report in the archive. But people publish the report.
Exactly. So now those reports are in public domain.
Yeah, but if you read this report, the report of the Okobe Judicial Commission of Inquiry, you will see areas of cover-up identified by the panel itself.
Granted, sir. But the challenge here is there have been attempts to cover up in the past. And those attempts clearly didn't work.
The government didn't succeed.
Those reports, just a minute, those reports eventually saw the light of day.
Yes.
So nothing happened. There were no consequences.
A lot happened. Oh, a lot happened. A lot happened. People know how certain people were killed. Contrary to the story in the media. Others have gone to court. And one of them, we've just got instructions from a family to go to court based on the revelation in the Oputa panel. We say, why? What have you been doing? But it's never too late when you are talking of crimes against humanity. So we're taking steps to go to court. Okay. Others have taken steps to ensure implementation. I've told you about the Judicial Commission of Inquiry.
The reason I'm asking, sir, is if those reports didn't see government, do anything, or government wasn't compelled by those reports to do anything at the state level, at the government's level, to ensure that those things do not happen again. What's the assurance we have that these indictments in this report, is going to be any different?
You see, it's not for the government in a neo-colonial environment like our own to stop impunity. The essence of a report like this is to empower the victims, the relations, those who are alive, the human rights community, and those who believe in justice, to ensure that the recommendations are implemented. That's the whole essence of the report. I attended the meeting virtually on Monday. We're going to have a report that will be released very soon in the Gambia regarding the 22 years of egregious human rights abuse in the Gambia under Yahya Jammeh. The report will soon be released. It has not been released, but we're already meeting to see how are we going to prosecute those who are going to be indicted? How are we going to ensure that compensation is paid to the families of those who were killed? For instance, we had to send the Nigerian to the panel, to the TRRC. That's the Truth Reparation, Commission in that country. Because 9 Nigerians were killed among 54 young West African migrants who were going to Europe via the Gambia or North Africa. And Jammeh killed them. 9 of them are Nigerians. I was only able to trace the family of one of them. And so we had to dispatch the brother to go to the Gambia to give evidence. I also handled the cases of 2 journalists who were killed. One was tortured, one was killed by the regime. Okay, we gave evidence. So, and the question of accountability is going on in Africa. In the 80s, in the 70s and 90s, nothing will happen. But today, whoever you are, once you are accused of crimes against humanity, genocidal acts, you are going to be brought to book. Either at the ICC or in a local court, hybrid court. You know what happened to Charles Taylor? He's in jail. He's sentenced to 50 years imprisonment. He thought that would never happen. In the case of Isne Abre, former president of Chad, killed about 4,000 people. He was to be taken to Europe for trial. A warrant of arrest was issued on him by a magistrate court in Belgium. And African leaders said, no, with what has happened to Charles Taylor, we don't want this to become the normal practice. We're going to do it ourselves. And so Senegal was asked by the African Union to amend this criminal code to allow the trial. And the man was tried, sentenced to life imprisonment. He just passed on, I think a few months ago. Now, in the case of Blaise Compaoré, former president of Burkina Faso, the trial has just commenced after 34 years of the brutal killing of Thomas Sankara, the best soldier to govern, a military, a leader to govern any African country. So the trial has just commenced. The point I'm making, therefore, is that there is no room for impunity any longer. If the Lagos State government hadn't set up this inquiry, the young people are so organized. They had already lined up a number of activities to expose those who committed what they regard as crimes against humanity on the 20th of October, 2020. So there is no room for cover-up any longer.
You know, in this report is going to be, is already subject of so many interests, and it will be the foundation upon which several actions will be taken in the future. But how the white paper approaches it, or whatever the white paper will contain, will be of huge interest. Because at the moment, several people have an impression of what they think should happen already from whichever report that they've seen at the moment. Now, there's been some comment regarding the role of the army. We've heard the CDS speak about some of this when journalists caught up with him. And it comes as if as though, well, he did say the army is a professional army.
For sure.
So
very professional.
Yes, but being hypothetical now, if the white paper, or can the white paper recommend sanctions or something be done about the Nigerian army?
For sure. For sure.
That's a state, because they say that, look, this is not within our own powers, that the federal government is responsible for the police and the army.
No. I mean, we have to understand certain things. One, 28 states out of 36 and the Federal Capital Territory set up judicial commissions of inquiry. Some of them have submitted their reports. Some are writing their reports. Some have not concluded sittings. So what has happened in Lagos is just one out of 28 reports that we're expecting. And these panels of inquiry were set up under the law, under the Tribunal of Inquiry law in each of the states. Whoever is recommended for sanction or prosecution, whether you are a federal public officer or a state public officer or a private individual, you can be prosecuted under the law. By the way, murder or culpable homicide, manslaughter, and so on and so forth are state offenses. So if a federal officer commits murder in Lagos, he's going to be charged before the Lagos High Court. The Federal High Court has no jurisdiction on it. The Federal Attorney General cannot prosecute him because it's a state offense. I think the military officers who were summoned by the panel to appear and defend themselves didn't quite understand that. They were not properly advised to appreciate that this is a commission of inquiry set up under the law, and that we have a duty under the law to give evidence and defend ourselves. I think they thought, oh, we are going to walk away because we cannot be brought to book. The panel, of course, didn't want to waste his time by summoning them and insisting. The panel could have insisted, you have to appear. But the panel didn't just want to waste his time. These guys have given evidence before us. When it now came to hearing the cases against them, the evidence against, they disappeared. And in law, the panel is forced to conclude that you ran away because you have no defense to these allegations. And the panel so found. Yes. Because the panel observed the rules of evidence, gave everybody fair hearing, bent over backward to accommodate those who should have been sent packing, did a thorough job, thorough analysis of the evidence, and arrived at recommendations that tallied with the findings. So it was a thoroughgoing exercise. One of the best reports ever produced by a judicial commission of inquiry in Nigeria.
That's assuming that that report is the valid one.
Yes. No, I'm saying that. It's the valid one.
Okay. But
I've spoken to a member or two. It's the valid one.
a good number of people are also saying that in the light of all that has gone on about this, the speculation and everything, some are expecting that the president should make a statement about it?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I mean, the president made a broadcast last year, I mean, in 2020. Based on the information given to him, I'm sure you are aware that 5 times the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, has said nobody was killed. The Attorney General said, Mr. Abubakar Malami said that those who appeared in Lekki, were not Nigerian soldiers. People just put on military, uniform to perpetrate atrocities. But now even the military denied ever going there. It was when the young people, these guys are so advanced in digital technology. They took photographs in the night and exposed those when the soldiers were shooting. It was at that stage the military, yes, were there. However, we only shot into the air. And the panel found that even Loma, Lagos State, went there, the police went there to do a cleanup in the night, in the early hours of the morning of 25th, so that there will be no trace. But by the time the panel visited the local scene, the scene of the incident, they were still able to pick some bullets, expired bullets. The military came, denied ever firing leather weapons. Now, how did people die? Because the chief pathologist of the state, Professor John Obafunwa, a renowned expert, internationally recognized, gave evidence to the effect that 99 dead bodies were dumped in the various mortuaries in Lagos State between 19th of October and 24th, 5 days. And that 3 of them were traced to Lekki. That was his own evidence. That's apart from the evidence of the witnesses who said, one of them said, I think Legend, that's the name of the guy, said, they thought I was dead. So I was put in the van with 11 dead bodies. So the panel painstakingly analyzed the evidence of every witness before arriving at its conclusion. So it is difficult. It is difficult to cover up what happened on that day.
What do you think will happen to those government officials who had made those comments now?
They are all going to be sanctioned.
By who?
Anybody who attempted to cover up will be sanctioned. Any organization like those who manage Lekki, what do you call them? That company.
LCC?
Yeah. There are recommendations. Because they disable their system in order to cover up. And the planets so fund. And you can't do that in a civilized society. Because you are serving the public. So you can't disable your CCTV camera in order to hide the monstrosity that took place before you.
Well, you spoke the other time about, that security
I'm
officers.
sure you are aware of the trial of one of the policemen who killed this guy in America, Floyd.
Yeah.
A young girl, I think about 9 or 10, used a phone to record the event. And that was very instrumental in the trial of the police chaps who killed, Floyd. So, unless we organize our system in a way that the life of every citizen or everybody in Nigeria is valued and respected, won't come out of this.
If I could just follow up on that one, do you think that the country or we should consider something, because when those in uniform see any young person recording the activities or anything, they immediately come at you. God help, they can brutalize or harass or even maim you in some cases. What should we do about that?
Now, I've read the report, a 309-page report. Very good report. But for me, there are certain lacunae, certain gaps. One of which is who is empowered to deploy troops in Nigeria? The Lagos State government or the Lagos State governor asked the soldiers to come. Yes. The Lagos State government was said to have spoken to the military chiefs. Even when a request is made that we're no longer able to manage the situation in my state, that request must be processed through the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, who is the only one empowered under Section 217 of the Constitution.
He has a final say.
To deploy troops. Yes, final say. So you can't say, oh, Falana called me as the chief of army staff, so troops must move to Lagos. No. That's number one. Number two, under no law in Nigeria, under no law, can soldiers manage a protest? No law allows it. That's number two. Number three, by virtue of Section 94 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended in 2015, and by virtue of Section 83, subsection 4 of the Police Establishment Act 2020, that law came into force in September 2020. During protest, the police shall provide adequate security for the participants in the protest. So if that had happened in October, we would not have had this incident. In other words, if the young people chose two venues in Lagos, Lekki and Alausa, if the police had surrounded those two places and protected the protester as a joint by law, the military would have no business coming there because there was no violence in those two places.
As a result
Let
of
me
that.
finish.
Okay, sir.
Because we're talking about the law. Even in a war situation, under the Geneva Convention Act, Geneva Convention, which has been domesticated by Nigeria since 1961, you do not shoot unarmed civilian, even in a war situation. During hostilities, you don't shoot an unarmed person who is not a soldier,
Even shooting in the
who
air.
is not armed. What shooting in the air? It's not your business
claim.
to go there at all.
So,
But let's just finish on that.
okay.
During the shooting exercise, people are being injured. Ambulances turned up, and you turn them away. That is premeditated murder. You want those people to kill them, to die. And that happened in this case. And the panel so fine. So there's no way any regime in the world can say, oh, because these are federal officers, no, we're not going to sanction them. If you don't,
Consequently, sir,
you don't, these are materials for the ICC. Because the ICC is set up, contrary to what many Nigerians feel, including opposition political. Oh, there is somebody has just shot somebody, we are going to the ICC. No. Under the Rome Statute, the ICC will only intervene if a government is unwilling or unable to prosecute those who engage in crimes against humanity, genocide, and aggression. ICC doesn't just go to any country to usurp the functions of the police. If upon the recommendations, or by the time the government issued this white paper, recommendations are made, that certain people will be prosecuted, and they are not prosecuted, of course, that is not the end of the matter. That is what the human rights law regime is saying now. No country, no president can now behave as was the case in the 80s. Oh, this is our internal affair. No.
So as it is now, this white paper, what they are supposed to do is recommend how that report will be implemented? And do they have the power to leave out certain things or say, well, this cannot be implemented? How are they supposed to function?
It's going to be difficult. And for the government to do that, there must be justification. There must be justification. Say, for instance, the panel is saying, those who engage in the killings have to be brought to book. So the panel cannot say, sorry, we're not going to do that. Or that should not be done. The panel is saying, Nigerians must be allowed to express themselves in line with sections 39 and 40 of the Constitution, freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. So will the government say no? All the government can now do, how do we ensure that during protests, there will be no killings? And I can tell you on this. This didn't come out in the report, but I've said it through your forum here, that why the killings occurred all over the country, the rate of the casualties was because the police at that time had no tear gas canisters, no rubber bullets, no water cannon to disperse crowds. And after the program here, very high up, a top official of the government, one of the governments called me, are you serious? Please go and find out. Today I can tell you, the police have acquired some of those gadgets. And between 2020 and now, only one incident in Lagos. I think during the Yoruba Nation rally in Lagos, where a young girl was killed in Ojota. The police deny, of course, an investigation is going on. Because under the coroner's inquest law in Lagos State, any unnatural killing shall be investigated. So we sent a petition, and that investigation is ongoing. The point I'm making, since then, the police have fired tear gas, canisters at protesters, and they have been able to control crowds. Okay. But we are saying, you cannot do that. What we are now advising, I met the IG, Inspector General of Police, Mr. Baba Akali, on Monday. And I commended him over the management of the last protest in Abuja, the anniversary protest, EndSARS protest. There was no incident in Abuja. Yeah. The police accompanied the protesters, and no scene was recorded.
How about Lagos?
Of course. A disaster. And I had to, in commending the IG, please make it a national policy that during protests, the police shall, in line with the law, provide security. And we then agree that what will be important, having regards to the rate of insecurity in the country, street protests may be problematic for now. But there has to be venues designated for those who want to protest. We used to have that in Ojota here, the Ganifa Eme Park, but they blocked it. In Abuja, we used to have demonstrations at the Unity Fountain, close to Transcorp Building. It was fence run. So you are saying people cannot go to the street. They cannot even also participate in designated or take part in protests.
So that appears premeditated to stop people from protesting.
Oh. And you can't stop it. So I think the understanding is there now that we need to go back to the drawing table. Since Nigerians are entitled to protest, how do we now manage the rallies that we don't have this unfortunate incident? And that is why the law has said, thou shalt provide security during protest, so that the so-called hoodlums will not hijack. Hoodlums that are also hired, sometimes by the government, as we witnessed in October 20, I'm sure you are aware, that in broad daylight in Abuja, the capital of the largest country in Africa, criminal elements armed to the teeth, they showed their faces, were being ferried in, vehicles to attack protesters, to shoot at protesters. Nothing has happened to them. The government was embarrassed. We thought, they are not government officials. It was one senator. Okay. Who is the senator who has no name?
Well, Mr. Farrell, just something that I...
In Lagos, yeah, you know, at Alausa,
Yeah.
a bus, you know, full of thugs was also unleashed on the young people.
Is it possible to expect? You have said that those who are culpable in this report, they have to face the law.
For sure.
Is it possible or to expect that not just as individuals, but as an institution, like the army also, should be called to question? Because you said the other time that, among others, the army as an institution denied any such thing happened, while not taking away all of the wonderful things that the army is doing at various fronts. On this particular issue, do you see a situation where the army as an institution is called to question, or just the individuals that were there?
Frankly speaking, again, I didn't see that in the report. It is an ideological matter. The army set up by the British colonial regime, the Nigerian police force set up by the British colonial regime, were institutions designed to attack Nigerians. Yes. To extort taxes from Nigerians and to kill in the process. And many Nigerians were killed, and nothing happened. For instance, in 1929, you had the Aba Women's Revolt against double taxation. You can't tax my husband and tax me. So the women protested. 55 of them were killed. In 1949, November 1949, 21 coal miners were shot dead in Enugu for participating in a strike for better conditions of service. Nothing happened. All the British colonial regime would simply do was to withdraw the police officers involved in such, killings. That's all. But the police that we inherited in 1960, the army that we inherited in 1960, simply changed from serving colonial regime to serving the neo-colonial regime in Nigeria. So, if there is a protest, this is an attempt to embarrass the government and expose the government to ridicule, we deal with the people. I mean, of course, I think President Babangida, during his Rice interview, said, the young people wanted to overthrow my government. I'm sure you read that. So the feeling in 2020 was that, these young people are out to overthrow the government. So let us kill them in the process. That's what happened. But for the military now, they have to read that report. It's in the interest of the military. Then you don't get engaged in, internal security. It's there. It's not your duty to maintain internal security. That is the duty of the police.
So as we wind down now, assuming Lagos and several other states come up with their reports or the final report, be it a white paper, what is the federal government expected to do?
The federal government is expected to work with the state governments to bring to book those who committed crimes against humanity, those who subjected Nigerians to torture, those who engaged in the killing of suspects in custody. All of them are there. The report is beyond October 20 events. It's talking of years of police brutality. Recommendations are made towards that. And beautifully, the panel is saying every year, October 20 must be remembered. It's very important also to assuage the feelings of the young people, and that the government will have to apologize to them. The Lagos State government will have to apologize to the young people. Again, that's in line with the provision of our Constitution, Section 35 of the Constitution. If you detain somebody illegally, detention, the court can order you to apologize and pay damages. The panel is also recommending that damages be paid. And here, the Lagos State government must be commended. It was the only panel, there was only Lagos State government that authorized the panel to award damages and ensure that the money is paid, even while the panel was sitting. But the most important recommendation, and which will have to come up in all the judicial commissions of the reports in all the states, is that there should be a permanent standing human rights committees in every state. Yeah, the governors took that decision in 2020 when they were setting up these panels of inquiry. They were setting up these panels of inquiry to investigate police brutality over the years, but that after the submission of the report, we're going to set up, permanent human rights committee. So that will be important to take care.
Isn't the Human Rights Commission in all the...
No, you have a Human Rights Commission in Abuja, which is finding it increasingly difficult to cover the entire country.
Yeah.
So, and that is why, in line with the spirit of federalism, the tenets of federalism, we should have human rights committees in every state, so that incessant police harassment and, illegal detention, harassment by other forces. I'm sure you know that what happened on October 20th this year during the celebration. The neighborhood watch guys also engaged in brutalizing young people. I'm sure you're aware that.
It was shocking, which is not even near what they're supposed to do. They're just neighborhood watch.
No, but you know the point I was making. And this is why the government will have to go back to the drawing table. What type of military do we want to have? What type of police service? Not police force.
Yeah.
The British created the Nigerian police force. And if you look at the logo, it's a circle. An elephant inside the circle. That elephant was meant under the colonial regime to mow down the people. Because you are encircled. No escape. You can be killed in the process. This was not done by Nigeria, but by the colonial regime. So in 1960, the nationalist politicians who took over the reins of power never thought it was necessary to decolonize the psyche of an average soldier or a policeman. So that's why soldiers refer to all of us as bloody civilians. So we now need to have a new institution where in every police academy, where in every military institution, human rights are taught. Where the government will also make them go through training that respects them as well. You need to know what police people go through, police recruits. The moment you join the police force, as a man, your hair is shaved to the skull. If you're a woman, you cannot make up. you can't make up. So, and so when you brutalize them for 6 months, as soon as they leave the police college, it's a case of misdirected antagonism. They want to have it back on a society that dehumanizes them. So all that will have to change. So just like we're asking them to change and respect the society, the government, the society must respect them. Okay. And that is the only way we can make progress.
Permit me to bring in this maybe totally unrelated issue. It would be remiss of us not to bring it up with you. Well, after so many days of the invasion of Justice Oduli's home, and so many denials and parade of people and all of that, and the NBA taking that action, are you satisfied with the pace of work at getting to the root of how the home of Justice Mary Odili was invaded?
No, nobody can be satisfied. Nobody can be satisfied. I had one in 2016 during the national raid on the homes of judges that we all had to rise against such incidents because 4 judges were once killed in Ghana in the dead of the night, including a nursing mother. And so I saw a danger in that kind of exercise. But what happened? We just moved on. With respect to Justice Odili, this is the second attack on her in the last 2 years. Nobody protested last year, maybe apart from a couple of us, when a band of thugs invaded a house to protest over one of our judgments. No, you don't do that in any country. Only in a banana republic will lumpen elements invade the house of a judge to disagree with her or him. No. But the government never said anything. Even the NBA didn't move against it. So, and that encouraged this set of people. 21 of them. 21.
Wow.
21. 14 have been arrested. We are now told that we can't find 7. Has anybody declared them wanted? We are being told that, oh, it was a fake police officer that led them. The magistrate that issued the order, is he a fake magistrate? And the magistrate was clear when he was revoking the order. I have been misled by the recovery panel of the Federal Ministry of Justice. He never doubted where they came from.
It means they might have dealt with them before.
No, they approached him. No, they approached the magistrate to obtain the order.
No, I'm saying, could it be that they might have approached the magistrate before?
No, they had to move the application before the magistrate. So the magistrate granted the order and issued a warrant, search warrant. The magistrate now discovered that was an exercise in illegality. So the magistrate now revoked the order. In revoking the search warrant, he now said, I have been misled. So that statement has not been challenged. So, and that speaks volumes of where the guys came from. One of them has said, I'm a consultant. Told the Attorney General. The Attorney General has denied. That cannot be the end of the matter. And I think that is the area the NBA is looking at. The police had released a report of its investigation, which is still ongoing. What the police simply said, we have caught 14 of them. We're still looking for 7 of them, including 2 soldiers. Again, 2 soldiers.
So as far as you're concerned, the Ministry of Justice stands indicted by that warrant?
No, and that is why we may need... the president was away. Now that he's back, some of us are going to appeal to the president to set up an independent inquiry into this unfortunate incident so that it does not become... Because it's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And it does not... It's an embarrassing for the country to say that a gang of thugs can obtain a search warrant to subject a Supreme Court justice, the next in rank, to the Chief Justice of the country, to an illegal search. And anything could have happened that night. And that is why we have to put an end, must get to the root of this criminal exercise.
Very well said, Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you for your perspectives this morning.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
All right. Well, back in a moment. Do stay with us.
And that's essentially what we're sinking our teeth into. We have with us Senator Emmanuel Bwacha, who is a Deputy Minority Leader in the Senate and also representing the southern zone of Taraba State. Senator, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is not the first time we're seeing this particular incursion into Nigeria. Just a few weeks ago, there were reports that Ambazonian separatists had made their way. They had made an incursion into a village. I'm not sure if it's the same village where this incursion happened. We even spoke with the traditional ruler in our own report of it, and he says, oh, that usually when there is a criminal offense that has happened in a neighboring village, they usually have what they call that now. They usually have a meeting whereby if criminals are hiding in their village, there will be a liaison with the other village, and those people will be produced, especially if they were from the other country. But it would seem that this is not what has happened here. In this instance, the traditional ruler in Manga village has now been murdered alongside at least 5 other people, because the figures we're getting are a little disputed. Can you give us in clear detail the reports that got to you?
Well, at the time I made this submission on the floor on personal explanation, the figures were less than 10. Thereafter, a report reached me that the figure had plummeted to about 11 or 10 thereabout, including the traditional ruler. And like you said, it's not the first time we have been receiving report of such incursions. So external aggression. As a matter of fact, this should be disturbing to any discerning mind in Nigeria, that a nation that is bordering Nigeria is seen to be constantly harassing our citizens. It's truly disturbing, it is worrisome, and calls for attention of those who are saddled with the responsibility of protecting our territorial integrity. It's very worrisome that Cameroon, that we are yet to forget the memories of secession of Bakassi, will go all out in communities outside of Bakassi and be doing this. I understand some of Nigerians that fall within the Cameroonian territory have common affinity with some of these communities. But that does not give them the right to come into Nigeria at will and even attack individuals or citizens of Nigeria.
So
It's a gross, yes.
first question I wanted to ask you about. What has been the relationship between the border communities, especially in that part? Do they have any historical background that used to maybe see them as enemies in the past, or have they always seen themselves as brothers and sisters?
Well, actually, in that region, this is the first time we are having this experience. The communities in the border areas have some historical antecedent. They share some common historical antecedent. The Yukuben community from that region, some of them are in Cameroon, by border division. So they fall into Cameroon. And we cannot for now say whether there's an existing feud, not to my knowledge as I speak, but I am aware that they speak the same language. They speak the same language. And I have it on authority also that they have common relationship with people from Calabar who are in the other side of Cameroon. As a matter of fact, I'm told the commander of the Ambazonian forces is from Calabar, probably from the Bakassi region that had been ceded to Cameroon, and that his deputy is from that region that was attacked, but on the other side of the divide. So you can see the complexities in all of this. And the most important thing is the dividing border, which makes it very, very important for us to watch, that you don't cross to the other side. Once you cross, you have crossed the red line. This is our worry. Yes.
It is indeed a worrisome situation. Just trying to provide context, for our viewers. I'm listening and I'm looking at this particular scenario. We have been able to establish that this is not just communities fighting amongst themselves.
No.
This is a case of soldiers. Some call them Ambazonian soldiers.
Yes.
Some call them separatists.
Yes.
Carrying out aggression against, helpless and defenseless residents of a village in Nigeria.
Yes.
Have we been able to establish that fact very clearly?
Clearly is the Ambazonian rebels, or the separatists as they are called. Initially, when I got the information, I thought it was the Cameroonian gendarmes, until I was told that it's the Ambazonian separatist rebels.
What is the difference? So we know that, yes, some people are trying to, get
well,
away.
The difference is that the gendarmes are security officials, security forces, members of the Cameroonian security forces. But the Ambazonian rebels forces are not, they are rebels and forces against the government, agitating for a separate state outside the present-day Cameroon that we know. So they are not in tandem with the government of Cameroon. So what is not clear, are they looking for more territories to lay claim to, as I pointed out from the beginning, or is a case of economic interest, maybe attacking to gain more money, just as we have with Boko Haram and bandits attacking people to get money that will further their agitation. This is one area that we also need to look into. And when they came into this village, what they took with them is still unclear, because there are still some people missing. The number could rise as we are speaking now, because as at the time I got the report, it was said that 4 people. So, and no report of whether properties were carted away. So I think the security need to go into this, to leverage on available information and get into the root of this so that we can be properly guided on what to do next.
It does make the matter a little more complex because they're not official soldiers.
Yes.
They're not known security forces.
Yes.
They are rebels, as the case is. How do you think that the Nigerian state begins to address this? Because this is now a problem created in Cameroon, which is now also giving us problems here in Nigeria.
Yes.
How do we begin to navigate that?
That is where we will need to focus. First and foremost, the community where this happened is from Takum local government. It's a ward in Takum local government that houses the 23 battalion of the Nigerian Army. Now, the spillover effect we're having of these rebellious activities in Cameroon is because of our proximity with this area. Probably they will want to see their kith and kinsmen from here join them. We don't know. These are all subject of guesses, speculations. Now, what the Nigerian Army or the security officials need to do now is to actually move closer to the scene of this accident and continue to monitor closely. Otherwise, they might not know exactly what is their motive, because this is the beginning. We don't hope it repeats itself. The locals are also interested in mobilizing. The worrisome aspect of it is our security forces are overstretched by internal wranglings, challenges here and there. So I pray that the authority, Nigerian government, for example, will embark on massive recruitment of security personnel to meet up the challenges of the day. Otherwise, the situation is getting out of hand. You know, the locals are looking at taking their defense upon themselves, taking their destiny on their hands, maybe mobilizing local vigilantes to go after these people. And of course, 2 wrongs cannot make a right. We will have preferred that the security will take it up frontally and address this matter as it grows so that they can nip it on the bud.
It certainly is a very complex issue because, I mean, I'm just trying to imagine a situation where perhaps, you know, the citizens were to take laws into their hands and, you know, also make an incursion into Cameroon. I'm sure that, you know, the Cameroonian authorities will certainly have something to say on that. However, if those people are also a problem to the Cameroonian state, it then makes the issue a little more complex.
Quite difficult, because like I said, if they were the Cameroonian gendarmes, we know that we're reporting directly to the Cameroonian authorities. But these are people that are out of their control. They're not within the control of the Cameroonian government. They themselves have become a hawk, you know, in the affairs of the Cameroonian government. So how do we deal with it?
In your place, in Taraba, where you come from, you know, which shares borders with Cameroon, how is the border delineated? I mean, do you have any clear markings that show that this is Nigerian territory and this is Cameroonian territory?
Well, as against what we see in other climes, here you know that this is where there is a boundary between your country and the other country. And the unfortunate thing is most of these areas are not properly manned by Nigerian immigration officials. If you go to that particular community, I'm not sure you'll find our immigration officials there. That is what makes it different from what we see in other places. In some other places, we see even walls that are erected to separate this country from the other side, especially in the flashpoints where there are troubleshooting elements, like what we are having now in this particular area. So you know it by history. You know that the person settling the other side. We have these cases in Abong area of Kurumi. We have it in the Mambila Plateau, you know, and through a movie in Adamawa State, largely the trust territories that voted in the plebiscite of 1961. So is the same matter, just as we're having in Bakassi. Some part ceded to Cameroon, and some, unlike what happened in 1961, these ones choose to be here. But in Bakassi, they become Cameroonians by fiat of the judgment of, the international courts.
It is interesting. And I ask that because we know just how problematic our borders have been. We've talked about porous borders. We've talked about not enough people to man the borders. There are solutions that have been suggested every now and again, but nothing concrete. I don't think that we have any serious concrete steps that have been taken in that direction. In the case where we have villages, really, really close to borders, one would think that by now, perhaps we will start thinking of new solutions, especially now that these villages seem to be vulnerable to attacks from either, in some instances, they're even gendarmes, but in this particular instance, they're Amazonian rebels.
Yes.
Perhaps we'll start thinking of new solutions for those villages that are even on the borderline.
Yes.
The borders are right within their communities. And I was just wondering what the situation was in the communities that especially in Taraba.
You see, this kind of provocation may ignite another reaction that may not be tolerable by government, where we have the security forces overstretched and communities are under constant attacks. And some of these attackers are known to the community because, like I said, some of them share common historical antecedents. And if we see that you are coming continually to attack me and no help is coming from anywhere, I may be forced to resort to self-help. That is what I was trying to explain earlier on. We are not trying to buy into taking law into our hands. But sometimes you will have no choice. Just as it's often said that people should defend themselves. People must learn to defend themselves because evil seems to be taking over the society. Now, if you sit and wait for government, the troops that are on ground might not be able to cover the crisis that is happening maybe somewhere in the north central, maybe in the northeast, and all that. And every day, these people are coming onto you. Will you just sit and watch them?
Have we had, an official reaction from the Nigerian state on this matter?
So far, we've not had. When I raised the matter yesterday, we've not had any formal reaction or response from the executive arm of government. But I believe they are on it and they should be doing something about it.
Do you intend to pursue it, behind the scenes?
Oh, certainly I will do both from behind the scene and even
in front of the scenes.
Yes.
Well, what sort of resolution would you be looking to see for these communities? Because you are aware of the challenges that Nigeria faces with protecting its own border communities. So what sort of reaction would you be looking to see, especially if the end goal is to prevent the loss of lives and property?
Well, first and foremost, I will expect that the emergency establishment should reach out to this community and provide relief materials for those who are victims, number one. And then number two, to explore means of providing security for this community where it is possible. But flowing from the challenges we're having now, if it is not possible, government should liaise with this community to raise a vigilante group that will have the backing of the security officials so that they'll be able to defend themselves because they are very, very vulnerable. These are attackers who are familiar with the community. They speak the same language. They also have informant. So if we don't handle it from this perspective, it may get to a level where they will come into Nigeria and be operating. Just as the bandits are coming to be operating in Niger, in Niger State, and all over in Zamfara State. Most of them are also not Nigerians. Remember, Nigerians, Chadians are there among these bandits. So let us not be surrounded by these hoodlums before they will take over our nation. It's quite worrisome, actually. The dimension, is becoming unprecedented.
Well, we'll wait to see what the reaction of the Nigerian state will be to this and how they eventually decide to handle this. But looking at the attack itself, the fact that a community leader was killed in the process, if the people who, carried out the attack are people who are familiar with that village and that environment, and they decided to kill the leader, even though we're not sure what their motive is, it doesn't look like whatever it was that they had in mind was good.
You know, if you want to destroy the sheep, you strike the shepherd. If the traditional ruler is killed, the other people become defenseless, just as it is in every country. The head of the country becomes the commander-in-chief. The same thing goes with a community. The village head remains the commander-in-chief. If he's killed, others become so vulnerable. So we may not know, like you say, but we must not sit and watch before the matter becomes unbearable. As we are speaking now, I know there are entreaties from our communities to reach out to them. Our people, I'm talking from Southern Taraba, the community leaders, the opinion leaders, and other traditional rulers are working hard to reach out to these people, calming them and say, we are awaiting government to see what they will do. So we trust God that at the fullness of time, sufficient arrangement will be made to ensure that this is not repeated.
Well, let me quickly throw this to my colleagues in Lagos now, because I understand that we might have another guest. Gentlemen.
Well, yes, we do, Malwe. We have Adam Sabo, who is a former Assistant Director, Internal Security of the SSS. He's a fellow, International Institute of Professional Security, and he is also a security and intelligence consultant. He joins us virtually from Kogi. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mr. Abu. Well, this attack on Taraba is definitely troubling. For you, what most stands out? There are those who are pointing to the lapses at the border control and all of that. For you, what stands out the most about this?
I think the attack did not come. I mean, it does not come as a kind of a surprise to me, because before this attack, you know that this separatist group has been operating along that border. In fact, I think in 2018, some of them were arrested in Nigeria and handed over to the government of Cameroon. And even the Cameroon gendarme, times past, has also made some incursions into our country to arrest them. And so it is not something that has come to us as
Oh dear. We certainly hope we'll be able to get him back to, but it is, first of all, it is surprising that as far as he's concerned, it is not something that is happening surprisingly. That means then that there's been some information about this, that this whole thing wasn't new to security officials. Another troubling thing about this is that not too far from that environment, according to the senator, in Takum, there is a military base there. So, okay, well, you're welcome back. Please go ahead, Mr. Abu.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the military base there, I don't think they have so far been found wanting. I think they have never had that kind of experience before. And now that it has happened, the best thing is for us to be sure that we face the situation squarely. It is not only the military this time around. I think the NIA in Cameroon should also infiltrate into that organization to know what is their plans concerning Nigeria. But what I want to say specifically is that when it has started like this, we better act fast, because what gave birth to Boko Haram was the incursion of some of these neighboring rebels, neighboring countries' rebels into our country. And it's from there our own boys picked up and then developed to what it is today as Boko Haram. So the earlier all the government agencies get up to
New
deal with the
occurrence. This is not something that is happening for the first time. If you listen to the senator, he said this is not the first time that this is happening. And so when you say that the military hasn't, the military base there haven't had this kind of attack, before, I'm wondering what you mean. According to the senator, it's not the first time. The communities, indigents, residents in the community say it's something that's happened before.
Okay, you see, what I want us to understand is the military that has been there, they are not there only for the operations of that particular community alone. They are there for other assignments. You'll be surprised that they are in other flashpoints across this country where we have crisis. But now that it has escalated to the level it is, the military and other security forces need to put attention. And of course, we will have to intensify our intelligence effort. And that's why I talk about the NIA in Cameroon.
Well, we seem to be having problems with that particular.
Goodness.
There, and I do not know if you share them, do you?
Well, the fears have been there. The occurrence of this, like I said, is repeating itself after what we see in Bakassi, in the areas of Calabar, and then another region in Baissa, a Bong area. This particular area is actually the first experience in Manga area of Takum local government. The military base that I identified being there had actually, in fairness to them, been proactive in tackling internal crisis. For this being an external aggression, we are expecting that they should be there as we are speaking now. This is my belief.
Do you fear that, if this is not properly handled, he mentioned the fact that Boko Haram started in this manner, that we could see this evolving into something I would not understand?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. If it is not named on the board, it may plummet, it may degenerate. And this is what we don't want. The earlier, the better. If the security operatives, the security forces moved into the scene and demonstrate proactiveness, that would be very, very fantastic. Otherwise, we might not be able to contend it.
Well, we certainly and sincerely hope that things do not get out of hand and that we'll be hearing from the executive arm of government. And we'll also be keeping tabs with you to find out how much progress you're making with regards to also getting a response, a comprehensive response from the executive arm of government. We have to thank you this morning. Senator Emmanuel Bwacha is a deputy minority leader at the Senate representing Southern Zone of Taraba State. Thank you for coming on Sunrise Day.
Thank you very much for having me, Malpe.
Well, we also thank our other guest, Mr. Adam Zabu, who is a former Assistant Director, Internal Security at the DSS and also a Fellow of the International Institute of Professional Security. Thank you so much, Mr. Abu. We're so sorry that connections are giving us some challenge, but we hope to hear from you very soon.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Let's take a look at some of the mails that we have received so far. Famous Timile is writing about the Taraba attack, and he says, when we don't take our security and citizens seriously, other countries will ride on us. Until we're serious with ourselves, that is when other countries will take us seriously and respect us as a country. The issue is that this is not exactly Cameroon versus Nigeria. This is separatists. So it becomes a little more tricky, but that's Timilehin's takeaway.
Well, this one comes through from Don, talking about the EndSARS panel outcome. It is pertinent to note that the EndSARS panel of judicial inquiry set up by the Lagos State government has done noble and should be congratulated. I crave the indulgence of the government to implement the recommendations of the report. Gone are the days people get away with impunity. The families that lost their loved ones should be adequately compensated. Those who are guilty should face the law so as to serve as lessons to others.
This one by Henry Okeke. The perspectives on human rights must change. Both leaders and the followers have a constitutional duty to protect and defend human rights in Nigeria. Implementation of the various EndSARS panels outcome is everything. The world is watching. Nobody stays in power forever, so the outcome you failed to implement while in power can work against you when you're out of office. Food for thought.
But Dare Shorunke has this. Lagos State government deserves commendation for giving the panel the freedom to reach its findings. We're looking forward to the report of that of Abuja and other states of the Federation.
And then you see Louis Safalabi says, I want to commend the panel for the boldness and forthrightness of the panel to deal with the complaints brought before it. My prayer is that the White Paper Committee set up to consider the report for implementation will not end up as a white elephant project, the way others before them ended up. We are all watching.
And we are counting down.
Yeah, we are. So there you go. Yes. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying we certainly are counting down, and we certainly will keep the numbers on the screen for all to continue to see. Yeah, that's it. 12 days to the release of the white paper. Just to let the authorities know that we are expecting the report of the White Paper Committee, and so are Nigerians. Thank you very much for watching this morning. I'm Maokwe Ogunyusuf.
Wonderful day and stay safe. I'm Ayo Makinde.
I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.